Now Drake's career is spiraling harder than ever, and this courtroom drama just turned into pure humiliation. The biggest crash out in hip-hop's history keeps digging himself deeper, and after all the little updates and games surrounding his lawsuit over Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us, Universal Music Group just came back swinging. This time, UMG isn't holding back. They're flat out exposing Drake, dragging his case through the mud, and reminding everyone of truths his side of hip-hop never wanted to face. The timing couldn't be worse. Drake's entire image is taking hits left and right, and his shot at winning this case is slipping away fast. Fans are scrambling to deny it, but what we're seeing right now feels like the beginning of the end for their guy. And while Drake's supporters hide from reality, the rest of hip-hop is celebrating, because what's bad for him might just be great for the culture. Now here's the part that makes it downright embarrassing. UMG just filed another motion to dismiss this circus of a lawsuit, and the way they worded it, savage. The paperwork reads less like a legal defense and more like a diss track aimed at Drake's ego. They clowned him, mocked him, and stripped away any illusion of him having the upper hand. For the first time in this whole messy legal battle, UMG completely called Drake's bluff. They reminded him, and everyone else, exactly what this is. A grown man throwing a tantrum because something didn't go his way. Instead of a powerhouse move, Drake looks like an artist crashing out emotionally while the whole industry watches and laughs. UMG wasted zero time tearing into this case. Straight out the gate, they called Drake out for making things up just to whine. They didn't even sugarcoat it. Instead of standing on the shaky complaints that started this mess, UMG pointed out something brutal. Back on March 17th, 2025, they moved to dismiss Drake's complaint. And what did Drake do? He backtracked. He scrubbed out the obviously false claims and replaced them with a brand new pity list, dragging in Kendrick's Super Bowl 59 halftime performance of Not Like Us on February 9th, 2025. That's how flimsy his case has become. He keeps moving the goalposts, trying to build a house on sand, and UMG keeps knocking it down piece by piece. And with the label's legal team spelling it out in black and white, Drake looks desperate. Every time he tries to pump up this lawsuit with mentions of Grammy moments or the Super Bowl, it just backfires and makes him look like the punchline. The best part? UMG didn't even need to get petty. They just let the paperwork clown him. They literally called Drake's claims astonishing, which in the cold, professional world of court filings might as well be the lawyers laughing in his face. That's not just legal language. That's a clean roast delivered in business attire, and it leaves Drake humiliated on a whole different level. Drake gets cooked harder than ever in this round because UMG flat out exposed him for contradicting himself. They painted him as sloppy, unorganized, and desperate, throwing random claims at the wall just to find something to stick against Kendrick Lamar. The paperwork even spells it out. Drake himself conceded that Lamar's Super Bowl performance didn't even include the lyric at the center of this lawsuit, the so-called defamatory shot about him or his crew being certified. That's the smoking gun. His whole case collapses under his own admission. Then UMG twisted the knife. They pointed out that Drake's new complaint focuses on the fact that the largest Super Bowl halftime audience in history didn't even hear Lamar call him out, which in reality just shows what this whole lawsuit is really about. Drake isn't defending his name. He's bitterly attacking Kendrick's massive commercial and creative success after losing the battle. It's not about lyrics anymore. It's about jealousy, plain and simple. To finish him off, UMG stamped the amended complaint as without merit and demanded it be dismissed. Brutal, and the way they worded it, you can almost hear the sarcasm dripping through the legalese. They basically framed Drake as a petty man-child, embarrassed by defeat, trying to weaponize the courtroom because he couldn't win on wax. The cherry on top, they exposed that Drake was literally leaning on fan pages as evidence in his case. Imagine that, a global superstar trying to swing a major lawsuit with receipts pulled from random stands online. That's not just weak, that's hilarious. Drake's getting roasted by his own label inside official court filings, and every page of this thing reads like a public takedown of his ego. This might go down as the boldest move an artist's own label has ever made against them in this era, and the fact that it's Drake makes it even crazier. Reading UMG troll him in cold, professional legal language is honestly hilarious, like watching a diss track typed out in Times New Roman. Years from now, people are going to look back at this lawsuit and say it didn't even feel real. Because Drake created a mess so embarrassing, even his own side had to laugh at him. UMG spelled it out plain. The comments Drake cited in his complaint were riddled with grammatical errors, slang, emojis, and came from sources nobody could take seriously. That's not evidence. That's fan chatter, and the deeper you read through the filings, the clearer it becomes. This feels like the official beginning of the end for Drake's lawsuit, and maybe even the start of a bigger unraveling of his legacy. And then comes the real sting, hypocrisy. UMG reminded everyone that Drake didn't hesitate to get ugly himself on Family Matters, where he dragged Kendrick's personal life and even took shots at his family. If we're being honest, some of what Drake said was just as harsh, if not worse, than anything Lamar ever spit back. So how does Drake now cry foul and run to the courtroom? It paints him as a hypocrite, desperate to rewrite the narrative after losing the beef that birthed one of the most legendary diss tracks in hip-hop history. In the end, UMG didn't just dismantle his lawsuit, they branded Drake as a bold-faced liar in legal ink. And that's the kind of stamp you can't erase, no matter how many records you sell. UMG came prepared with receipts that cut deeper than any diss record. They reminded everyone of something a lot of people forgot. Less than 3 years ago, Drake himself signed a public petition condemning prosecutors for twisting rap lyrics into literal fact. He openly supported the idea that rap is art, not evidence. And in their filing, UMG quoted him directly. As Drake recognized, when it comes to rap, the final work is a product of the artist's vision and imagination. That line hits like a knockout punch, because here's the twist. UMG then flipped it back on him, saying flat out, Drake was right then and he's wrong now. Savage, they argued this entire complaint is nothing more than Drake trying to save face after losing his rap battle with Kendrick Lamar. That's the kind of contradiction you can't explain away, because they nailed him using his own words. It stings even worse when you realize that petition wasn't just about Drake. It helped protect his own peers, his friends in hip-hop, when prosecutors tried to weaponize lyrics against them. He stood with them back then, but now, he's doing the exact opposite, crying in court because his pride took a hit in a battle he couldn't win. And the crazy part? Drake hasn't even been able to respond to this. No real explanation, no spin, nothing. It leaves him looking like a straight-up fraud, exposed for the hypocrisy that's been hiding in plain sight for years. This isn't just about one case anymore. This is about Drake's credibility as an artist and how quickly it crumbles when the spotlight flips back on him. And if you thought that was as deep as this rabbit hole went, think again, because UMG wasn't done. They turned Drake's own accusations about Kendrick's Not Like Us performance right back on him, holding up the mirror and showing everyone exactly who's been playing games from the very start. UMG didn't just call out Drake, they dragged his whole legal strategy for being one-sided and hollow. In their filing, they pointed out the obvious. Drake's lawyers cherry-picked moments from his career, twisting the narrative to make him look like some poor victim. But nowhere in that 100+ pages of legal fluff do they admit the truth, that Drake has spent his career dishing out some of the most provocative, ruthless taunts in rap. And let's not forget, he's the one who started this exchange with Kendrick in the first place. Think about how ridiculous this looks. Drake jumps headfirst into a rap battle, knowing exactly what comes with the territory, and then runs to court crying defamation because the other guy hit harder. UMG's words made it clear. Drake can't play both sides. You can't swing in the ring and then complain about getting punched. And the hypocrisy doesn't stop there. The fact that Drake was leaning on fan pages, literal stan accounts, as his evidence is laughable. It shows he wasn't just desperate, he was trying to spin half-truths into some courtroom sob story. Every move screams desperation, and UMG simply held up the mirror for everyone to see. Even if you're not a die-hard hip-hop fan, the contradictions are glaring. Anyone can see how hypocritical it is for Drake to throw shots for years, profit off controversy, and then cry foul the moment he loses. If he were to actually get away with this, it would set a dangerous precedent, threatening the freedom of artists everywhere to express themselves without fear of their lyrics being twisted into evidence. That's why this is bigger than just two rappers beefing. UMG exposed Drake as not only petty, but a threat to the culture he built his career on. The stakes here stretch way beyond rap. This could affect the entire world of music and creativity as a whole. If someone as powerful and petty as Drake actually managed to pull this off, it would send shockwaves across every artistic lane. Imagine a future where no one can crack a joke, push a boundary, or experiment in their art without worrying some superstar might sue them because they didn't like it. Careers would end overnight, and creativity itself would be under attack. That's why this fight matters, and that's why UMG dragging Drake like this feels so important. He's trying to turn his personal loss in a rap battle into a courtroom weapon, but finally the walls are closing in. The filings keep stacking against him, and maybe sooner than later this whole case will get tossed before it spirals into an even bigger circus than it already is. In the meantime, all we can do is sit back and watch the truth settle in. Outside of the die-hard OVO loyalists, those obsessed fans who refuse to see Drake's hypocrisy, everybody else is finally waking up. People can see this case for what it really is, a desperate man trying to rewrite history after losing to someone sharper, bolder, and more respected, and that reality is hitting harder than any diss track ever could. The bigger danger here isn't just Drake losing a case, it's the fact that he's trying to destroy the way artists are even allowed to talk about their music. The precedent he's pushing would choke creativity at its core, and in doing so, he's become the exact opposite of what hip-hop was built on. For any of his peers who actually care about the craft, Drake now looks like the antithesis of the art form itself, a superstar turning against the very culture that made him. Sooner or later, the full weight of this will hit, not just his career, but the entire industry. And when it does, we'll see how people really feel about a man who tried to bend the courtroom just because he couldn't win a rap battle. Until then, all we can really do is laugh at the fact that Drake thought he could get away with the flimsiest, most hypocritical, most baseless lawsuit hip-hop has ever seen. So now let's talk. What do you think about UMG's savage response to Drake as they move to end this ridiculous case once and for all? Where do you think this goes from here? And out of everything UMG exposed, mocked, or roasted Drake with, what was your favorite moment of this professional level trolling? Now I can't wait to hear what you think about all of this, so drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you made it this far, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video. It really helps the channel keep going. Because right now, it looks like Drake isn't just losing in court, he's losing his voice in rap altogether. Kendrick Lamar has silenced him so completely that Drake feels like he's stepped away from music altogether, with nothing left to say. And when you see Kendrick on tour, standing tall as the undeniable winner of this entire beef, the silence from OVO speaks louder than anything else.